Good day, and welcome to today's devotional. It is a nice sunny day here where I'm at. Feels kind of cheerful through the window. Hope your day is going good wherever you are. Anyways, we're looking at our devotional day in Proverbs chapter 7, verse 5. And so as we work through this chapter, we've been seeing once again this call to paying attention to the teaching of the book. And in a sense, it's saying it from a father to his son, but there's this idea of God speaking to us using this kind of an idea of the father teaching the son, so God teaches humans. So this is this idea here, and as we move through it, he's saying, really got to pay attention to this, learn God's wisdom, because of how important it is. And by the time we get to verse 5, it says this, that they, meaning his commandments, his teachings, that they may keep you from an adulteress, from the foreigner who flatters with her words. So the idea, of course, it's a contrast statement, right? Like here's, of a sense, like he's saying, here's my teaching, really learn this, make it important because it can keep you from this person who will lead you into bad places, right? So from an adulteress or from a foreigner who flatters with her words. Notice here, of course, that there's the words coming from someone else, right? The father is saying to the son, like, I have good words. Here's my words. These will teach you and help you. There's going to be a contrary. There's someone else coming along who's also going to have words. They're going to flatter you. They're going to sound good, and they're going to try and entice you into that adultery, that unwise, ungood place. And so my words, if you learn them, can guard you against her words when they come. And that's the idea. And I think the principle that I'd like to sort of focus on a little bit today in our devotional is just this idea of competing wisdom. When we think about God giving us his wisdom and giving us his commands, but in the book of Proverbs, giving the wisdom of God, we can look at that. And what a lot of humans in our era tend to do, and I think probably through all times, but especially in our era, is we tend to think of God almost like he's just another person, another human person. That he's just another guy who's got another opinion, and that's interesting, and take and leave it. Maybe there's parts I like, maybe there's parts I don't like. I can sort of look at his opinion of what would be the good and proper thing to do. But this would be a mistake, a really big mistake. There are lots of competing wisdoms, so to speak, in the world. Lots of different people with different ideas about different things. what's the best, and what's the good, and they're all interesting and interesting, to analyze them and look through them and see what maybe are some good and some not so good things about each of these ideas. But it's a different category altogether than the father, than God, right? Speaking to his son. The care that the father has for his son and the likeness of the son to the father, there's a link there that's different. And if we think about that metaphor with humanity, God's care for you, for me, and the likeness of him in us creates a different bond than any other human out there, than any other person out there. And so it's a different category altogether. God's wisdom is not really an opinion. It's a revelation. We look at God's wisdom and he's saying, here it is, take it or leave it, but here it is. And this is the benefit of it. And you should learn it. And if you learn it, it can protect you when you're looking and hearing the words of others. Then you have that godly wisdom of the one who created you, knows best, and cares most about you. You have his wisdom to guide you when looking into the so-called wisdoms or the words of others. In our world, there's all kinds of methods for wisdom that people use. One being the most common being just simply opinion. I think this. And quite often when you examine someone's opinion, you'll discover that their opinion isn't actually based on a whole lot, sort of, based on how it makes them feel, based on maybe past experience they had once, or maybe they're just passing on an opinion someone else gave them, but they never really thought about it. And so a lot of opinions have no foundation to them other than I think this. And unlike that, of course, God has the eternal power of his not only his experience, but his actually creative work in making us. And so it doesn't compare. But then there's other methods some people have. Some people put a lot of faith into the scientific community, not necessarily justifiably so. Sometimes we have really great scientific breakthroughs, and other times we just have really, really poor supposedly scientific statements made. Just because something claims to have come from science doesn't mean that it's rock solid. But even that method of thinking that everything can be reduced to, say, a mathematical equation or to some sort of some observance, um, there's certainly interesting things we can glean and learn from that, of course, but it's not the source of all wisdom. And other methods people use, like different ideological methods, where they get a framework of ideology that they like the sound of, and then they apply that to all the things of their life, and try to find some sort of wisdom in life through the lens of this ideology they've adapted or whatever. And it's a common method people use to so-called find wisdom. Others use introspection, and they basically look within themselves, and they're like, well, what do I see inside of me? What feels most natural or seems to come most naturally? And then that becomes the guideline through which they come up with what they think is wisdom from that. And what the Bible offers you is once again a revelation. It's where God says, I made it all, and I'm the one who's going to judge it all, and I care most about you. And so I'm going to reveal to you the true wisdom of God, of the true wisdom. And so it becomes a better foundation than all the other flattering words of these ideologies and systems and introspection and all these other things. It becomes a much stronger place to find wisdom. The source of your wisdom matters. It really does. If you're looking to have wisdom, and you really should be, because your life actually depends on the kind of wisdom you adopt in your life. Your soul actually depends on where your wisdom comes from, what kind of wisdom you have. And so where you're getting that wisdom, what the foundation of your wisdom is, really does matter. If you're getting it from a suspect, like this verse is saying, if you're getting it from the adulteress, she's coming to you with flattering words that sound good to you, that's to be really suspect, because she's got an ulterior motive that's not necessarily really truly wise. And so you need a defense against that kind of thing. And so the source matters. And having God as the source, the foundation for your wisdom, is really, really important. In the ancient world, they used to call theology the queen of all sciences. They used to say there's other things, but that's the queen. That's the one that kind of sits at the top. And it's really important. Now, some might hear me saying this and saying, oh, you're just making an ad hominem argument, right? Like, I'm speaking against a person, as if somehow the person is the problem. And that would be a mistaken understanding what I'm saying. Let me just clarify. I'm not saying that wisdom is equal to fact finding, right? We find facts through various things, and a truth is independent of who tells it to you, for sure. And I'm not talking about whether or not you find a fact. I'm talking about wisdom. Wisdom is more than just learning a fact. Anybody can learn that the sky is blue. A wise man or a fool can discover that the sky is blue. We don't call that wisdom. That's just a fact. And it doesn't matter who tells them or who shows them the sky. It's blue, regardless of the person. But wisdom is a little more attached to who's giving it to you, because you want to know that the person giving it to you actually has understanding and teaches, or in God's case, reveals that understanding to you. And so there's a whole list of things, a whole bunch of assumptions, there's a whole bunch of methodologies, a whole bunch of parts to that wisdom and understanding wisdom that come from the person, not merely from the sharing of a fact. Wisdom is has more to do with understanding what to do with facts, and with regard to a certain goal, right? You may have the same set of facts as another person, but if you have different goals, then you're going to do different things with those facts and call it wisdom. And the thing about God is, his goal is the best. His goal is goodness, true moral righteousness, and how to teach his children, you and I, to be characterful, truly righteous people. And there's no one else that can do that like God, because his character is the basis of all morality, right? So he's the right one. He's the source you want for wisdom, because wisdom is not just knowing a fact. It's what to do with it with relation to a goal. And the most important goal is moral rightness before the Lord and in your character. Well, that comes from God. So I know that's a little more heady today, but the point of it all is this: your wisdom, what you're going to use to help guide your life into where you should go, not just to know what you could do, but what you should do, what we call wisdom. You need to have God's teaching really, really settled in your heart so that when the others come with all this other so-called wisdom that flatters your emotions and makes you feel good, that you're able to assess it through the proper lens and be defended from that. The source of your wisdom really does matter. And I think today's lesson from Proverbs 7 verse 5, I think just kind of reminds me of that. It really matters. Well, God bless you in your efforts to continue to pursue God's wisdom. God willing, I will be back tomorrow with verse 6. And in the meantime, may God be with you. Have a good day.